So in chapter 14 of Masechet Soferim, the text speaks about how you read the Haftarah. It says, Maftir ben Navi upores al Shema. The one who reads Navi, the Haftarah, also say Shema. And the word pores means to cut, to slice. In the Talmud, the term pores al Shema is the meaning of half or to cut it in half. They said it means half the tefillah. The prayer would be cut to sections, very, very much like we do today. The Psukei de Zimra are read by one person, then the Yotzer, Shema, and Amidah by another person, and then Asher Shvedecha by another person. So the commentary on Rashi on that, the way it appears in the Gemara, is that when they designated the person to read the Haftarah, they would honor that person with leading the tefillah and reading the Shema in the Siddur. Right? But the problem with that commentary is that it should have been the other way around. It should have been Hapores al Shema, Hua Kore Maftir. Meaning whoever reads the Shema reads the Maftir because that's the right order. The other problem would be that it seems that already at the time of the Talmud, when that was mentioned, they used to have a designated Shaliach Tzibur. Not everybody would go and become Shaliach Tzibur, especially on Shabbat. But according to that, it will be each Shabbat, you have another person reading the Haftarah, and that person is also the Hazan for Shacharit. So another commentary on what it means, Maftir ben Navi Pores al Shema, is here. The Nahalat Yaakov says that. סביר עליה, דפורס את שמה, היינו שמה של ספר תורה, שהיו רגילים לומר קודם קריאת התורה, פסוק של שמה ישראל, וזהו אומר המפטיר. There was another pasuk of Shema that they used to say before Kriyat Torah, and which today we don't do every Shabbat, but we do on the high holidays. When we open the Sefer Torah, we say Shema Yisrael Hashem Hashem Echad, Hashem Elohim. In some traditions, also on Simchat Torah, when you take out the Sefer Torah, this pasuk is recited. So from Masechet Soferim, we learn that maybe up until the 7th or 10th century, this was done every Shabbat. You take out the Sefer Torah, and one person says out loud, Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. Everybody answers. And then he also translates Shema Yisrael to Aramaic. And that's why it's called Pores. He slices like slicing, because it's like a sandwich. Hebrew, Aramaic, and then Hebrew again. And that honor would be given to the person who reads the Haftarah, and it makes sense that would be done. Then they say, Hechi patach, Ashrei yoshvei beitecha, ve'achar kach, omed hamaftir. So this is how they do. First they say, Ashrei yoshvei beitecha. And then the Maftir says, En kamocha ba'elohim kama'asecha, mi kamocha ba'elohim, Hashem mi kamocha nedar ba'kodesh, נורא תהילות עושה פלא, השם מלך, השם מלך, השם ימלוך לעולם ועד. Right, the Ashkenazim still do that. We, from all that, we do Ashrei after the Haftarah. We say Ashrei shvebetecha, and Hashem melech, Hashem malach, Hashem yimloch olam va'ed. The kids recite it, everybody repeats. Then you say this pasuk: Atau Hashem levadecha, Ata asita et Hashemayim, Shemei Hashemayim v'chol tzava'am, haaretz v'chol asher alea, hayamim v'chol asher ba'em, v'ata mechayed kulam utzva Hashemayim lecha mishtachavim. This is a pasuk that we're familiar with because we read it every morning before Shirat Hayam, after Psukei de Zimra. It means you are Hashem, unique and only God. You have created the heavens and all of its hosts, the land, the earth, and all which is upon it, the seas and all which is in them. You provide and sustain all of them. And the hosts of heaven bow down to you. This is a pasuk from Nehemiah, from the same gathering that we mentioned before, where it was sort of an awakening gathering, bringing people all back to observe religion. And that was an event where people were getting ready or inspired to follow the word of Hashem, and that's why we read it in the Tefillah. But they would say it, they would have said it before the Maftir, and then the Maftir, מיד נכנס המפטיר ואוחז את התורה, ואומר שמע ישראל פסוק הראשון בנעימה, ואף העם עונים אותו אחריו. So the Maftir now comes in, after they said the Ashrei, after Hashem Melech, different order, not the way we do it today. Then the Maftir comes in and he holds the Sefer, he raises the Torah, and he says Shema Israel with melody, with a certain tune, and the people answer. And by this comment of Ne'ima, they emphasize that you have to say it with the musical intonation, goes in line with the reports of the first travelers who came to Baghdad, to the seat of the Goanim, and they report that one of them was Binyamin of Tudela, the famous traveler, came in the 12th century to Baghdad, and he was impressed by the 11th century.
Where he came from, Rabbi?
Tudela is in Italy. He was an Italian Jew, and also Rabbi Ptahya of Regensburg in Germany also visited at that time, and they were impressed by the splendor of the synagogue. The cantor, there was not one cantor, there were many cantors, and there were choirs. They had a system of scales, the musical scales that were assigned for each Shabbat. Each Shabbat, the music, the tune of tefillah was done in a special scale. That was the influence of the Muslim culture, especially the Abbasid Empire. The Persian rulers who were very keen on the musical performance, and those scales is what we called in Arabic are called maqamat. The maqam literally means place, so it's either the place of where this music came from, the origin. Maqam is like makom, and they had different types of music typical to a place. So, for example, there's one scale called Hijaz. That's the name of the Arabian Peninsula, Hijaz. There's one scale called Ajam. Ajam was the Arabic name for Persia. Then there's a maqam called Nahwand, also after a city in Iran. So a lot of those musical scales came from the Persian Empire, and then the Muslim rulers of that empire, and they got integrated into our tefillah. The other part of it came from the Leviim, who brought with them the tradition of the Bet HaMikdash, of the music in Bet HaMikdash. And in Baghdad, they had that. Every Shabbat was in a different scale. That was preserved, not so much in the Babylonian tradition among Iraqi Jews, but more among the Moroccan Jews and Syrian Jews. Moroccan Jews, they have the scales, very elaborate. And if you look at the Bakashot, Shirei Yedidot, you will see that for every Shabbat there's designated makam. They're very meticulous to make sure that you read it in the right scale. And also the Syrian Jews have a list for all the Shabbatot of the year, which scale is right in each Shabbat. And here we see that the halacha says, Omer Shema Yisrael Pasuk Arishon B'Ne'ima. You have to sing it, not just say it, you said to sing it. Ve'chozer ve'omer Echad Eloheinu Gadol Adonenu Kadosh Ve'Nora Shemo. This is a pasuk that is said in the Ashkenazi tradition. We don't say it. It's not a pasuk really. It's a later composition, not from the biblical text. It says Echad Eloheinu, our God is one. Gadol Adonenu, our Master is great. Kadosh v'nora shemo, His name is holy and revered. Keneged shelosha avot ve'shomrim keneged shalosh kedushot. The triple repetition corresponds to the Avraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov, or to the three times that we say Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh. And then they said the pasuk v'tzidkatcha Elohim. It brings a couple other pesukim. Akol tenu oznu Elohim utnu kavod laTorah. Gadelu l'Hashem iti u'nurama shemo yachdav. All these pesukim made their way into our tefillot in different orders. A lot of those prayers that were not set in stone, like the Amidah, moved around because Sidurim were copied by hand, just like any other manuscript. So if someone copied them a little differently, or he felt that in our synagogue we do it this way, that is how the minhag prevailed. And only with the invention of the printing press, whoever was able to print more Sidurim or better Sidurim prevailed. So for example, there's a nusach of tefillah of the Persian Jews that was never printed, always remained only in manuscripts. Similarly, there's a nusach of three communities in Italy. They were near each other, and they had their own nusach. The cities of Asti, Fossano, and Moncalvo in Italy, that only survived in manuscript. No, Livorno is different. Livorno was the center of the printing houses. Rabbi Yosef Karo traveled to Livorno to print his book. So Livorno is the one which took over. Even the Moroccan Sidurim was printed in Livorno. Then there's a set, Bet Oved, Bet Benuha, a set of Sidurim by the Syrian tradition that were printed in Livorno. So that was a center. Livorno, Venice, the first Belforte, yeah. And but in Venice it was Bomberg. Daniel Bomberg was Bombirgi, I called him, was the first publisher of the Bible in Hebrew, but he was a Christian. And
they became Christians.
Yeah, but that was to have a business and to be part of the guild. You had to be in many places. You had to be Christian. So anyway, I wanted to comment on how the Sidurim and the prayers moved around. When you look at the news, it says, this is what we say, no, this is what we say, you know where it comes from. And also you have to say, this also, those who are used to hear to the Ashkenazi tradition would recognize it. על הכל יתגדל וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתעלה ויתהדר ויתקלס כמו שמלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא בעולמות שברא העולם הזה והעולם הבא כרצונו וכרצון כל עמו בית ישראל. You would say it here? Yeah, but that's the Ashkenazi tradition. And it says the name, yeah? Okay, so bring it back. So it says the name of God will be exalted, extolled, praised, elevated over all. Yeah, it's just interesting to look at that word, v'yitkales. I just want to comment on that. Because we say in Tfilah, lekales, and also in the Haggadah, we must le'aleh, le'shabeh, lekales. So the word kiles in the prayer and in the Haggadah means to praise. But if you look in the Tanakh, it means the exact opposite. Leitkales bemishu, to lekales someone, means to curse him. And most famously, it is mentioned regarding in the story of Shimei ben Gera, when David HaMelech was fleeing Yerushalayim, when Avshalom rebelled against him, Shimei ben Gera, who was a descendant of Shaul, came towards him and cursed him, and the word that they use is kiles. So how could be one word with two completely opposite
same with
meanings?
Same with the word hesed.
No, so hesed is different. Hesed is one rarity that appears in the Torah.
Right.
So that's a different story.
Right.
Hesed is ish asher, the regarding a relationship between a brother and sister.
Right.
The Torah said hesed hu,
right.
and nobody understands it. And
right.
say maybe it means it's as a question. Hesed hu, you think it's hesed. I think that what it has to do, the reason of that it's called hesed is that in the Egyptian royal families, brothers and sisters would marry each other in order to maintain the control in the family. So they did it for hesed, because hesed in the original meaning in the Torah is loyalty. So that's the hesed there. So, but that's a good example of a word that has contradictory meanings. So with hesed, it's a different story. It's two layers of meaning. With lekales, it's a question of the period of time where this word came into use. And that's why you have to be careful with the Hebrew language, any language, when you do research, try to understand text. In the Torah, in biblical Hebrew, there's a verb, kales, which means to curse. In the Hebrew of the Mishnah, which is about 1,000 years older than that of the Torah, the word lekales was borrowed from the Greek. They took a Greek word and they made it into a Hebrew word. And that happens all the time. I spoke with the friend, with Igal Pinto, who has a moving services, right? He has moving services. He's a mover. So a lot of the people who work in moving in America are Israelis.
Yeah.
So they invented a word. They have an easy word for deliver in Hebrew when they speak among themselves. How do they say? We will deliver the merchandise. Ani adalver. Deliver. From deliver comes le dalver. That's a new word. The dalver. So but also letalpen, letalpen from telephone. People say, "Ani atalpen alav," I will telephone him. So the same thing ever with lekales. In Greek, the word kalos means good. There's kalos is good and kakos is bad, like in cacophony. Kalos is good. There was a famous family, Kalonimus, which means good name, Kalonimus. So in Hebrew, Shem Tov. And so they took this.
Is it using the correlation with the word class in English?
Could be.
Class.
So kalos is good. So they took the word kalos and lekales, and that's how it. So just have in mind that the meaning of that. And then after he says this, תגלה ותראה מלכותו עלינו במהרה ובזמן קרוב והוא יבנה ביתו בימינו. May Hashem reveal His sovereignty over us in a speedy manner. והוא יבנה ביתו בימינו ויחון פרדתנו ופרדת עמו ישראל. He will rebuild the temple and will redeem the remnants of Am Yisrael. And ויאמרו אמן. ואחר כך, כן. ואחר כך מגביה התורה. And then he raises the Torah, raises Sefer Torah. Miyad golel Sefer Torah ad 3 dapim, and then he rolls the Sefer Torah, meaning opens the Sefer Torah to have 3 columns. Show ומגביהו ומראה פני כתיבתו לעם העומדים לימינו ולשמאלו ומחזירו לפניו ולאחריו. So he shows the writing to the people who stand to his right and to his left, ומחזירו לפניו ולאחריו, and then to the front and the back. So not a full circle, but half circle and another.
This cannot be done without a sefer.
Correct. So Sammy is commenting, the way the Sefer Torah is described here, it's an Ashkenazi Sefer Torah and not a Sephardic, because you cannot open our Sefer Torah to show 3 pages. That only applies, right.
But they also have a different interpretation of what Glila is.
Right.
So Glila is opening it.
Right.
But Glila for them
Right.
is to...
So in this case, we have to admit that the Ashkenazim, their Sefer Torah is in the original format. That's how it used to be in the temple. Maybe even in Bavel up to a certain period, the Sephardim also used it, and then someone came up with the invention of putting the Sefer Torah in a solid case to protect it, which makes it heavier but also easier to raise. But
and then they went out of, because then everybody with the cassette.
oh no, the silver craze.
Even lift it.
That is crazy. This is really a problem. You cannot. It's very hard to lift the Sephardic Sefer Torah today. It used to be a wooden Sefer Torah that would weigh at least 20 pounds less than what we have today. But I'll tell you,
we were growing up, we only had Ashkenaz.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Yeah.
In Morocco, in Morocco,
in all of Morocco.
Of course.
Morocco, there was no.
Interesting.
The first time I saw it was in
Okay,
Israel.
I accept. Okay, okay, but next door to you, the Tunisians and the people of Jeddah, they have very elaborate cases for the Sefer Torah made of wood, usually octagonal, and with.
Morocco, I never saw.
Okay, interesting. So when you raise the Sefer Torah without a case, it's difficult because it's hard to balance. It's so difficult. There's a curse in Yiddish. It says, may you always get a Hagbaha to raise the Sefer Torah in Parashat Bereshit. Because then you have to hold the whole weight of the Torah on your left hand. So that's a curse, And
Today in Israel, the Moroccans have.
No, the Moroccans went right. They went with the boxes, but really, it's important when people talk to me about making a Sefer Torah or donating a Sefer Torah. I say make sure that it's easy to carry. My great grandfather, Haim Ovadia, wrote a small Sefer Torah, the size of the writing from top to bottom, not the parchment. The writing of the Sefer Torah is 8 inches. 20 centimeters from the top of the text to the bottom, and the whole Sefer Torah you could lift with one hand. It's the only one that he wrote, Now, the other interesting thing that is mentioned here is that the raising...
What about the letters?
Letters are small, yeah. Letters are small. Smaller, not tiny, but smaller. Yeah, they're about this size.
Right.
And the interesting thing that we see here is that the Torah is raised after the reading and not before the reading, like the Sfaradim do today. There's no clear indication of when this has evolved. I think that it has to do, as I'm saying it, I think it is lightly, it's a humor comment, that the Sephardim has deep faith. They have trust in the religious system and all that. So the moment they bring the Sefer Torah out, they open it, they say, Zot HaTorah Asher Sam Moshe. This is the Torah that Moshe gave us. In the Ashkenazi world, they're a little more skeptical. So they say, okay, let us hear it. Okay. And after you hear it, they say, oh, now, okay, we agree that's Zot HaTorah.
The Sephardim show the beauty of the Torah in the beginning.
Yeah.
The Sephardim,
Yeah.
Hagbaha.
In the end. Right, but the Hagbaha becomes complicated, like Matt has commented, because you have to roll it, and then someone has to hold it. It can't stand on its own. I'll tell you one last story that has to do with the weight of Sefer Torah, not regarding halachot. Many years ago, during the disengagement from Gaza, one of these things that over the territory, there was always protests in Israel. People were protesting that you have to do this and that. My father used to be in the intelligence in the army for 30 years. Then he retired and is teaching in a yeshiva in Israel with people older than him. He's now 85. When that happened, he was maybe in his mid 70s, and he decided to protest. He had practice of being in protest of all kinds on both sides. So he took a couple of the elderly gentlemen of the synagogue, like 15, 20 people, not a couple, 20 people, and they went to the main street of Mahne Yehuda, Mahne Yehuda, the Rehov Yafo, and he tells me over the phone, he says, I took them all, and I took a Sefer Torah with me, and we blocked traffic, and so in Jerusalem. So a police officer comes to him, a commander comes to him, and he says, "Sir, I would like you to please move and free the road." He says, "My father tells me I saw that he's Sephardi, he has respect for the Torah and all that." He says, "I'm holding Sefer Torah in my hand, and I'm an old person, and I have heart problems. If you irritate me, you want me to get a heart attack, I will fall here with the Sefer Torah, it will be on your head." He says, No, sir. Okay, what do you want? He says, "Let me go to the next traffic light." He says, "Okay." He says to go with all the older gentlemen, with all the elderly people, from where he was to the next traffic light took about half an hour. So he was able to take, and then I asked him, "Abba, tell me, I don't understand, in this whole story, I don't understand one point. You had hernia when you were 40. He said when his military service, he tried to pick up a car to fix a tire, and he got hernia. And since then, he was complaining, like you say, Yumma, right? My back, my this, like he can't lift a cup of water sometimes." I says, "How were you standing with the Sefer Torah for half an hour?" He says, "It was empty. I took out the scroll. It was just the wooden box, the lightest wooden box that you have in the synagogue. And the police officer didn't even ask him to open, let me see the Torah." And he did, eventually he did, Baruch Adonai le'olam, amen ve'amen.